Bingo! 3 o'clock rock. Woo! Shrink wrap, you know that. This is shrink wrap with Steve Katz, who is a psychology person, a psychotherapist, in fact, more specifically, a marriage and family therapist. Welcome to your show, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Wanted to give you a little, shake up here.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about human dynamics, and of course, there's plenty of human dynamics, in family marriage and family therapy.
Right.
But there's also, the common denominators, of course, in human dynamics that we should explore. Where you find it in marriage and family therapy, but it exists outside in our community. A sort of macro psychology,
Right,
if you will.
right.
And they call that psychology, sociology.
Yeah, you could call it
You
sociology.
take psychology, make
Or
it big
social
enough to become
psychology.
social psychology.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where we're going today.
Okay.
All right. First thing is, what exactly is marriage and family therapy?
Marriage and family therapy is a modality of psychotherapy that
Toolkit.
operates under the principle that it's all about the family. Or it has the TV show, It's All in the Family. That whatever is going on in your life, you can relate back to family history, your family of origin, when you were a kid growing up, how many children, how many kids, what was the birth order, what was your mother and father, what did they do, were they strict, did they stay together, did they break up, and then of course in the family that you start, the relationships within that. There's a modality called family systems, where one person is the identified patient, but in reality, if the identified patient gets cured, usually what happens, somebody else acts out, because it's a system.
Yeah.
And the system, even if it's dysfunctional, tries to maintain its own balance. So you've got a drug addict, and everybody, identifies the drug addict, he, she is the problem. But when the addict gets clean, all of a sudden, the mother has a nervous breakdown, what they used to call a nervous breakdown, right? Why? Because the system's out of balance.
Even though she should be happy, she has a breakdown.
Well, we don't, I always tell people, don't should on me. Even though she should be happy. That's not about should, right?
It's not about should, it's the reality.
Yeah, it is what it is, right?
Okay, so that means I can interpret my daily life at the end of the telescope of my family. What my father said to me, did to me, my mother said to me, my relation with my siblings,
Right.
my life at home
Right.
Is where I grew up, and it leaves an impression. It reminds me of my puppy. Well, I think dog psychology is so useful, You ought to take a look at it. Maybe you should
I've
have
got a
dog.
puppy. I've got a
Okay, all
dog.
right, then
I got a
then
dog.
you know.
It's a great therapist, too.
Yeah, right.
I take a lesson.
To understand
She
the
never
dog
talks.
is to
It's the best therapist.
And she has never disagreed with you,
And she
or for
always
that
loves
matter,
me.
revealed a confidence, I'm sure.
That's right. She's in the APA.
We could tell stories about that. But anyway, so we have a situation where people are in this family, and they carry all their goods out into the world. And
Right.
so the question is, what are those goods, and how perfect is the relationship between those elements in the family and what you carry out into the world? Because I would suggest to you for this discussion that there's DNA issues here.
Right.
That may affect that.
Right.
Certainly do affect that.
Right.
There's
You're certainly born with a personality type.
it's what you eat. It's your biome, what the
Right, the
germs in your
chemicals.
bowel. It's
Right.
everything. You could go to work and be affected by toxins there. Going to
Yeah.
affect the
Oh.
way you think.
You're right. It's all connected.
So I suggest that if somebody comes in, quote, dysfunctional.
Right.
You can look at the family, and sure,
Right.
that's the most intense thing, and maybe it's the most palliative thing too. Because it can solve the problems that you have if you have a balanced family, as you say.
Right.
And it's a root cause of a lot of imbalance. But there are you agree with me, there are other causes.
Oh, of course there's other causes, all the things you mentioned.
Yeah.
Right?
So how does the psychologist, the therapist, discern what's the family cause and what's the other cause?
I don't know what other therapists do, but all my therapy is client-directed, oriented, right? So you come in, you sit down, and I say, classically, everybody that comes to see me has a problem. What's your problem? Right? And then you start to describe an issue that you're having. You know, maybe the camera lady here is making you crazy, right? And I say, tell me about that, right?
She would never do that, by the way. Never, ever do that.
Okay, your wife.
Well, that's a different kettle of fish.
That's a different kettle of fish, right? Right. So you would talk about that, and probably if it's an issue, you might get emotional telling me about this, right?
Yeah.
And then I might stop you because in the theories that I work with, we like to constantly ask people how they feel and then relate that sometimes back to, oh, so when you're telling me that she did X, Y, and Z and you feel helpless, has that ever happened to you before, like when you were a kid? Have you ever had that same feeling? You know, and then maybe you'll tell me, oh, yeah, you know, when my mother beat me upside the head with a frying pan, I felt helpless, I was hurt, and it kind of feels like that.
And so what happened here at home reminds me of the frying pan.
Not only that, but you went out and picked a woman to marry
Who likes to do frying pans.
and reminded you of your mother, and she had the similar issues.
Yeah.
And you know, and so the next question might be, now, why would I do that? I wanted to choose somebody as far away from that as I could get, and yet I brought her into my life.
Yeah. Why would you? Why would
Well,
you do
there's one theory that says that as grown-ups, we pick people so that finally we can win the battle that we never won as a child. Now I'm going to show her who's right. I'm going to be the one with the frying pan.
We're gonna redo the household that I grew up in to make it better for me.
Yeah, precisely.
Well, okay. By the way, my puppy thing is that
Yeah.
my puppy thing is that the puppy is most impressionable in the first year or 2 or 3 of his or her life.
Like
right?
people?
Like people.
Right.
It's the same thing, and you
Right.
can lay an impression on them, and
Right.
you create them, and then that's pretty profound because that's going to stick. That goes to my movie theory, which I'm going to tell you now.
Okay,
I told you I would tell you, and I'm going to tell you because
I'm ready.
do what I say I'm going to do.
Right.
Okay, the movie theory is once you know somebody's movie, the likelihood is that person will peak the movie,
just rerun it. and
rerun the
it.
movie.
Oh,
Now,
yeah,
this
that's
is so
that's
in
in
the
agreement
practice
with
of
what I
law,
just said.
it's the practice of human
Right,
relations.
right.
If I know your movie, I know what you're going to do later. I can, not completely, but pretty much predict it. I can predict it vis-a-vis my relationship with you because I know what that chemistry is. So even if I don't see you for 10 or 20 years, you come back, we have another case together, for example.
Yeah.
Probability is you're going to be the same guy. It's not likely that you have changed your spots.
Right. Right.
You agree with that?
Not totally, because if I totally agreed that people don't change, I wouldn't be in this business.
You want to change them.
I want them to be able to enjoy their lives more.
So is it enjoy or function?
Well, I think they go hand in hand usually.
If I enjoy, then I am functional. And if I'm not functional, I don't enjoy.
Well, you're talking, micro or macro. Like you may have a really bad day, but overall, maybe you would say that, you enjoy your life most of the time. Most of the time you're happy. And then there's other people that would say, most of the time I'm at home crying, right?
It's the human condition. I mean, you have a little of everything.
Yeah, but some people have a lot more than...
You could be in Auschwitz and have a happy moment.
Yeah, well, it's interesting.
A little bread.
No, because there was a very famous theorist, whose name escapes me right now, who was at Auschwitz. And when he was underneath the boot of one of the guards there, and the guard was telling him, get up or I'm going to shoot you, he had this vision that he had this theory. His name was Viktor Frankl, it comes to me now, that someday he was going to be talking about this in front of a whole room full of psychologists, talking about in order to live your life, in order to survive and be happy, you need to have a reason, right? And he wrote a book about it, I think it's called The Will to Meaning. And he wanted to live so that he can go and fulfill this fantasy he had to present, which he later did many years later in Los Angeles.
In a
He
crowded
presented
room.
In a crowded room, right. And he also had this fantasy to be reunited with his family, his wife and his kids, who had already been exterminated. But that made him get up, right?
Yeah.
That was his motivation to get up off the ground and keep marching so they didn't shoot him in the head.
Yeah.
And he said it was very predictable at Auschwitz who was going to die. The people who lost the will, they just wouldn't get out of bed anymore.
And they were going to be killed.
And they were either going to starve to death or be killed.
Yeah.
And because they didn't have a reason anymore to get up and do it.
Yeah. So if I ask you what nirvana is, I mean a living nirvana, the best life. What is the best life? We got happy. We've got.
Well. Forget about happy for a minute, okay? I mean, Freud said it's about work and love, right? And I don't think that it's changed a lot since then,
Okay.
right? If you're happy with what you're doing and who you're with, and you feel loved, it's hard not to be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Although, I mean, I submit to you, those things extend beyond the marriage, beyond the household.
Oh, yeah.
If you have a bad job, that you hate your boss,
Right.
That's not a great thing. And
Right.
you can be happy at home, but the happiness is only at home, and
Right.
you can't really be integrated,
Right.
as a facet of society. I'll give you, man, here's some other things that pop into my mind.
Yeah.
Man, woman, humankind is a social animal.
Right.
We can't exist. I mean, I've
Right.
become more convinced of this in my old age.
Oh, the
We
worst
can't-
punishment in the world is to be in
Ostracized.
solitude.
Yeah.
Solitude,
Yeah.
solitary confinement. It's
Yeah.
torture.
Yeah. And so, we have to measure our, whatever it is, our quotient of integration, quotient of happiness, whatever it is. We have to measure that on how we do in the world in general. It's not just the safe harbor at home, between 6 and 10 in the evening. It's how we do all day long.
Right.
And this gets complicated.
Right.
Further complicating factor is, you may know this already, we are mammals.
I got a belly button. Yeah, I
We're
read about
mammals.
that.
Yeah. When did you first become?
No, I like your dog theory. Because a woman wrote a book that you should basically train your husband the same way you train a dog.
Or your wife?
Well, my wife trains me the
Okay,
same way
there
she
it is,
trains
there
the
it
dog. And she's doing a great job, and she's always kind. She never hits me. She's always sweet. She ignores the bad stuff and reinforces the good stuff. It's really simple.
But I think, with mammals, when I invoke the word mammals,
Yeah.
I'm invoking the science of, virtually hundreds of people who sat on that chair, who do biochemistry, who
Right.
do DNA testing, who do, radiation in the atmosphere. All these things, participate, in affecting a mammal. So that it's not simple. We are not necessarily
Right.
rational.
And so, as a marriage and family therapist, I would ask you, so do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah,
Are they the same as you?
the same. No.
Right, but they had the same parents, right?
Yes.
So why are you different?
Because not all siblings are the same.
Why?
Because that's the way it works. I mean, it's
So it's the DNA is a little different, right?
yeah, yeah,
Right? And even though you grew up in the same family, the environment wasn't really the same, right?
sure.
Were you the oldest, the middle, the youngest?
Oldest.
You were the oldest. So
Yeah.
none of them were the oldest, right?
Right.
How many kids were there?
2.
Two. So the other one was the younger one.
Yes.
Right. And so you were treated differently because of that, partly,
Yes.
right? And also because you popped out of the womb differently. Maybe,
Yes.
You got
Yes.
more of the happy stuff. And,
Yes. And we've had different lives.
Right.
And our common point is that we grew up together, and we have, we ate at the same table, and we talked about the same things, lived in the same community, had the same parents, whatever that. But we are different in many ways. The sameness is good, and maybe the difference is good too.
Yeah.
But we are mammals, and we can't be rational. The thing is, you take a really smart guy, and you say, he's smart, good schooling, he's going to be rational. Is he really?
That's a good
one
joke.
doesn't necessarily, right. One does. Can the president of the United States be rational all the time? Doubt it. So I guess, one of the quotient in here is how much of the time is this individual rational, as we would see rational.
And who decides what's rational?
It's a hard definition.
Yeah.
Mammal is a hard definition. It's a biochemical concept,
Yeah, there's the duck-billed platypus, right? They haven't decided yet.
I suppose you could do a test, sort of a biochemical test on somebody. Check all the, the neuroelectrons out, check all the chemicals out, check all the balances out, acid, base, whatever you have, everything. And you give them a quotient, and we call it the, integration quotient, or the, is this person all together with regard to all of these different indices, and you can rate him or her.
Well, I don't know, because there's the unknown factors, right?
Beyond what we've talked about.
Well, because you take identical twins.
Yeah.
Same DNA.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But they're different.
Yeah. Yeah. But they're more same than they are different.
Yeah.
At least physically.
But why aren't they totally the same?
Because we don't have that here.
You're great. Whenever I say why, you say because it is.
Fair enough. I can't explain the universe to you.
Well, I work
maybe
in a
you can
place
explain
called
it to me.
the Center for Humanistic Psychology, and they're a bunch of existentialists. You would fit right in.
Okay, well, we'll be existential today. This is Shrink Wrap with Steve Katz. He's a psychoanalyst, therapist person. We're talking about human dynamics outside the family. We're going to get to there, get to that right after this break. You'll see.
Aloha, this is Keli'i Akina, president of the Grassroot Institute, and I want to thank you for watching Think Tech Hawaii. We are delighted to be partners with Think Tech because it gives us the opportunity to bring to you a show every week on Monday at 2:00 p.m. called Ehana Kako. Ehana Kako means let's work together, because we believe that Hawaii will be a better place when everybody works together. And in what way? Well, at the Grassroot Institute, we research 3 basic areas, and we invite guests to come on board from across the country, the state, and the nation to talk about a better economy, a better government, a better society. Now, aren't those things we all want? Indeed. If you'd like to have the latest research in terms of public policy, as well as ways in which we can build a better government, economy, and society, then tune in every Monday on Think Tech Hawaii at 2:00 p.m. for our fascinating guests on Ehana Kako. Let's work together. I'm Keli'i Akina with the Grassroot Institute, and I'll see you then. Aloha.
Bingo, and I am so sorry that you weren't here for the break, because we hit some
All the
really
good stuff.
All the good stuff is in the breaks. That's Steve Katz, the psychoanalyst here on Shrink Wrap. He's actually the host, but we're switching roles today. You got to do that once in a while. It's healthy.
I need to know what it feels like to be on the other side, right?
I'm
going
going
to
to
do my
give you
job.
that experience.
Yeah.
Talking about human dynamics outside the family. Okay, so so let's see what we're going to cover. So we have certain basic understandings. Oh yeah, the Freud thing.
Yeah.
Freud has had a huge effect on the world.
He's the father of
all
modern
that.
psychology.
But I submit to you, it's really skin deep. Sorry, we'll get to why I feel that way.
Okay.
In the early 19th century and after the war, it was very popular in New York, where I grew up, where you grew up.
Right.
Freud and psychotherapy was really popular. It was maybe a little bit of a limousine thing in some ways. You had to afford it.
Right. Insurance didn't cover it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But there was a stigma too.
Still is.
You have to see a psychologist.
Right.
But it became somewhat popular, and Freudian psychiatrists were all over town. People were training for it, and it was a classy profession to be a psychotherapist. And a lot of people were doing it. I remember a lot of people doing it. But since then, it's not been as popular. What happened?
Well, the behaviorists came in that said, we don't believe in the superego and the id and all these things that we can't measure. Right? Because behavioral psychology, if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. All right? So the behaviorists came in and said, we don't care about what these people think about, we only care about what they do, their behavior. Because we can measure that, How many times does he run around in circles? How many times did he get fired from his job? How many times did he end up in jail? How often does he use drugs? We can measure all of those things. So that's the only thing that we're going to focus on. And so they just figured, like, we're the same as the rats in the cage, right? And so they did all their
It's
testing
very
on
high
rats
tech,
and
though.
rewards.
It's a data gathering, isn't it? It's numeric.
Very,
And
it's
then
very,
you make an
very-
algorithm, and you can
right.
you can
Yeah.
actually classify
Right.
people.
So if
that
we
way.
reward the mouse for hitting the button, he'll keep hitting the button.
Yeah.
Right? It's the slot machine theory, right?
Yeah.
The best way to keep him on the slot machine is only pay off in a random sequence, every so often, and we'll keep those people at the slot machine forever.
You're scaring me. Okay, so, but then you say that Freudian psychology has come back now?
Well, there are many people now that take many of Freud's theories of motivation, and all of marriage and family stuff is based on a lot of the theories that Freud came up with about the feelings that one has about one's parents, and how there's different stages of development, and you go through different feelings about your parents, and sooner or later you have to sort of overthrow the father and take his place to make your own way in the world, right? I mean, it goes all the way back to Oedipus and Hamlet and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the modern theorists have discounted a little bit. A lot of Freud stuff was very much based on sexual stuff, fantasies. And although that still is a factor, it's not as heavy as perhaps as Freud would have said, which is where Jung and Freud separated a lot. So they call it something else instead of psychoanalysis now, maybe. And although there are still psychoanalysts where you lie down on the couch and just talk, and the guy goes, tell me more about that, right? Like, the Woody Allen kind of thing where you just do that your whole life twice a week.
He made his whole career on that.
He made movies out of it. So there goes your movie thing, right? Yeah, which, like before, you said to me, if I know your movie, then, I can predict what you're going to do, right? And I said to you during the break, right? But first you got to know your movie.
Right, right.
How do you influence the relationship with this? It's not just about me when you're talking to me, it's about you.
It's like the old story about how a psychoanalyst has to be psychoanalyzed before he can psychoanalyze the other guy.
Well, sure, that's
I
true.
mean, otherwise, he
Most
comes to an
therapists
advantage that's
have
imperfect.
a therapist. They should have.
Yeah, yeah,
Because, I'm projecting my stuff onto you,
Yeah.
whether I know it or not.
yeah. Okay, so there we are.
So, but you asked me that question. So if you're in a deal with somebody, right, and you want
Yeah.
to be able to get them the best of him,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And if I know his movie, will that help me,
Yeah.
right? And I'm saying, yeah, but you got to know your movie.
Yeah. Okay. I got to know my movie, and I'll pay that price.
What's your movie?
We don't have time. That's another show. Next time we'll do that.
Okay.
But,
Think Tech, that's your movie.
Tech, it's my movie. Many movies, 4,000 movies. So, okay, so now I'm asking you your movie, and I'm trying to get data on you because I want to interact with you in a way, that meets my standard, whatever it is. Maybe I want to take advantage of you some way. I want to beat you, destroy you. Maybe I want to do good for you, but I need to know your movie. I need to size you up. And I can use the principles that you have talked about, that we have talked about here today, to size you up and know what your movie is, what your strong, weak points, how life was at home with you will help me. And so I can apply these things, and I don't understand for the life of me why psychology isn't ubiquitous. I don't understand why people don't study more of it. I don't understand why there aren't psychologists at every corner, at every turn, in every corporation, helping people understand these relationships in the community, whether it be business, whether
Well,
it
I
be
think
government.
you mentioned one of the reasons for that before, is there still is a lot of the stigma. I have a client, and I said I'd like to meet your family, and I did, and it was great. It was very illuminating. I learned a lot about the way she interacts with her parents and the way they interact with her, and but they wouldn't come back because the father said, "There's nothing wrong with me. Why do I need to see a psychologist?" Right? That's the stigma.
That's what
it's
happened,
the
and that's
assumption that you don't go to see somebody unless there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, that's another theorem I wanted to throw at you. My theorem is that because we're mammals, to some extent, we are, all of us, every single one, a little crazy. Agree, disagree?
Well, no, I think some of us are very crazy.
Okay, but at
But
the
at
baseline,
least.
a little, at least.
Well, what do you mean by crazy?
Got me.
Right?
Not rational.
Right.
A
Well, I
function of
think mostly
irrational-
we're not rational. I think most of it, like you were talking about the stock market before, many people believe that the stock market goes up and down based not on rational, but on emotions. You know, what do I think the economy is going to do tomorrow? You know, if there was agreement, there would be no stock market, right?
Isn't it wonderful? You know,
Everybody's looking at the same statistics. Why are they coming up with different answers?
because we're human. And
Because
mammals,
it's
and all
emotional.
a little
It's
crazy.
emotional.
Well, it's the anthill theory too, isn't it? Because as we said, man is a social, humankind is a
Uh-huh.
social animal, and we need to be together with people. But when we're together with people, we have two choices. One is we can be like the ants, working diligently, productively. Together, under some kind
Sacrificing
of magic
for the
leadership,
community.
sacrificing, for, doing good.
Right.
And the other possibility is we can have a big fight.
Right.
We can argue with each other about everything.
Right. It's the lobsters in the pot.
Yes,
Right? Each
yes.
one's pulling the other one back down into the water.
Or it's war.
Same.
We could do that.
Yeah, we do that very well. Yeah.
So you say to yourself, is war rational? Well, for that matter, is lobsters in the pot rational? If we were all quite automaton about it, I suppose the world would be a simpler, more predictable, more pleasant, I hate to use the word pleasant place.
By automaton, you mean like robots.
Everybody rational. Everybody doing the right thing all the time. Nobody crazy, anytime.
But the problem is that there's no agreement on the right thing.
That's part of the problem, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now I want to take it further. Okay. So I get up in the morning, I look at the newspaper, there's an ad. Okay. That ad is directed at me. It's trying to sell me, for example, a car. I don't need a car.
Okay.
I do not need a car. I'll be clear about that.
It's a very
I do not
narcissistic
need a
point
car.
of view if you think the
you
ad's
may need
directed
a
at
car.
you.
I don't need a car. Okay. But they're trying to sell me a car. They're trying to sell me insurance on the car. They're trying to sell me everything about the car, and they're working on me, man.
Yeah.
They think they got my movie. They think that I live with cars. They think cars are a sex object.
Do you have a car?
Yes, I have a car.
So they must be
I have
right.
A truck. Sorry. Very utilitarian. And this is a small example. So they think I'm going to buy into the car.
Right.
And they're not fooling around. They got a lot of money
Big bucks.
involved, big bucks.
Yeah.
Probably even psychologists.
Sure, certainly.
Probably even guys like you, on the payroll there in, Detroit or wherever it is. I'm trying to figure out how to sell me that car.
Right.
It's scary.
I don't know. I mean, does it work?
It works to sell cars, for sure.
Well,
Sell a lot
you
of
think
cars.
people would buy less cars without the advertising?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, you don't wake up in the morning and say, I think I'll buy a car today.
But yet almost everybody has one.
Yes, but they would have an older one.
They buy things they don't need.
Lots of things.
Yeah.
Tons of things. We live in a world that's created by that.
See,
by
that's
Madison Avenue
about,
is all about
you're right,
psychology.
it's about, and emotions.
Yes.
First they create the need,
Yes.
right? Like the ads that, trying to sell
They
you
make
something
you believe
to
that
make your thing bigger, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
First they
This is a
convince you it's
family
too
show.
small.
I don't care what he says. We're gonna
So
get
I
into
see
the
those
sex
ads and I
therapy
say,
later.
how did they know?
How do they know? How do they know, for example, that I would rather buy a red car than a blue car, or vice versa? How do they know that? I mean, they probably know. They study the human condition. They study the mammal in me. They study the way the anthill works.
Yeah, but you see, there's what I call the woo-woo factor. That's the unknown, right? Which probably has at least as much to do with your decisions than all the stuff that you think they know, right? Like whether it's a spiritual thing, right? Like when you don't have nowhere else to turn, what keeps you going, what gets you up, right? Or religious, or I don't know, something that there's no words for.
You really opened a subject here that, deserves another break. And that is the relationship of psychology, the family, and dealing with the world.
Yeah.
By every human being, every mammal person,
Right.
with religion. Whoa.
Yeah.
We're going to hit that. I mean, not that hard. We can't hit it that hard, but we're going to hit it to some extent
Okay.
right after this break. Steve Katz and me, you'll see. Goodbye.
Aloha, I'm Rachel Jurgen with Aging with Grace. Please join us every Tuesday on thinktech.com.
Aloha! Please join the Hawaii Farmers Series every Thursday on ThinkTech. We live stream from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. and we are
Matthew Johnson and Justine Spiritu as your hosts.
And the purpose of the Hawaii Farmers Series is to get to know our local agriculture community a lot more, get their backgrounds, get their history, find out why they love what they do, as well as get some of their insights.
And insights into hearing about the future of agriculture in Hawaii.
So we're going to bring the experts on, but we'd also like you to be a part of the conversation. So you can always join us by tweeting in your questions and comment at ThinkTechHigh. So we hope to engage with you. Thanks.
I told you we'd come back. Look, we came back. Steve Katz and me. He's trying to do psychotherapy on me now. Watch.
So, how long you been married?
A long time.
A long time.
Yeah.
And does she have medals?
She deserves them.
See, that's what my parents used to say about each other. Yeah.
Well, there's an interesting question there. Is that we live in a nuclear age. I remember when I first started practicing, and I was in divorce for a few years, and I noticed that everybody was getting divorced at this really rapid rate. I'm talking about the 70s. It was like de rigueur.
Right.
You couldn't possibly have a long marriage. You had to get divorced. Or you wouldn't know what was behind, the golden veil. You wouldn't know your true potential.
So what was your secret? You missed it. You didn't do it. I mean, you did divorce for other people, but not for yourself.
Yeah. I actually, looking into that crucible, that turning the rock over and seeing what was underside, I didn't like it.
It was scary.
It's scary.
Yeah.
That's what people did to each other. The violence was extraordinary. It wasn't a good idea.
So you see, what you did, that one of the first signs that a marriage is going to fall apart is when people start thinking, I could do better than this.
Right.
Right?
Invidious comparison.
Oh, that's a good word.
Yeah, otherwise known as looking at the skirts.
Well, for your side.
Okay.
Right? Sometimes looking at the pants.
Okay.
Right. But so when that happens, you do that, right? How do you repair this feeling that something's not right? Because there's a guy named John Gottman who wrote a book called 7 Principles on Making Marriage Work. Great book. And he talks about the ability of couples to repair a break. Well, not necessarily even a little crack in the relationship.
How do you do that?
Well, it's very interesting. He gave a great example. So let's say we have a big fight about something. You didn't take out the garbage again, or you never make the bed, or you're a slob, or whatever, right? You're like me. And
He admits this on international television.
and you're having a terrible fight about it, right? And then we're standing in front of a window, and I go, wow, look at that beautiful cardinal out there. Now that, although I'm talking about the bird, is called a repair. And if you were my wife, you can accept my repair or not. So if you look out the window...
Is that an apology? What is that?
And say, yes, that is a beautiful bird, then you're reconnecting. If you say, I don't give a rip about the bird out there. I'm talking about...
Don't change the subject. I was beating you up.
Exactly.
And I wish to continue.
Right, but I know you don't do that because you're married for 88 years. Right? So you could say it's an apology, but more than an apology, it's an attempt to reconnect.
Yeah.
It's a way of saying, I really don't like the way this is going. I'm feeling a little bit hurt.
Yeah.
I want to make it up to you.
Yeah.
Well, what can I do to make you feel better? How can I take care
How
of
can
you?
we
in this
disengage the argument? Yeah.
Or re-engage that wonderful
Re-engage the
feeling that
better, yeah.
the reason why we got married,
Yeah.
and boy, that's a beautiful shirt.
Thank you.
That was another repair.
We don't need to fight anymore.
We don't need to fight anymore, right?
Well, I
really?
absolutely
That's
agree.
nice.
And this is an important tool in the tool shed.
Right.
Now, suppose I'm having a discussion with my adversary in a court case.
Yeah.
Or in a business deal.
Yeah.
I love coming back to that.
Yeah.
You can come back to your stuff. I'll come back to my stuff.
We come back to what's familiar. That's
Right.
family
It's
systems.
spelunking. You
They
know,
keep
you
it
get down the cave, you have to come
balanced,
back.
right.
So, we have a big fight. You know, I got really ticked off, and I said words
Yeah.
that are unkind.
Yeah.
And that are the kind of words that, you know, are radioactive for a long time.
Yeah.
That he will remember or she will remember.
Right.
Now, could I use the same repair technique to try to bring that back together? Call it ho'oponopono.
Well, like you were saying before, you got to know my movie, right?
Yeah.
Maybe my movie is not birds, but maybe my movie is about how effective I am as an attorney. So you would say something like, you know, you really know how to go out. You're good at what you do. And that comes back to my earlier career as an actor. It's motivation. It's all motivation. What do you want?
Yeah.
Right? And how are you going to get it?
Yeah.
So you see that beating me over the head wasn't working.
Yeah.
So you go the soft route.
Yeah.
And you try to make friends with me.
Yeah.
I was once working for an attorney.
Yeah.
I won't mention his name because I thought he was very underhanded and disreputable.
Well, that never happened before.
So he hired me when I was doing my video business to go up and collect evidence up on the roof. There was a stairwell that there was an argument about whether it was lit well enough because somebody fell down, right? But the judge had allowed the videotaping up on the roof, but within very strict parameters of where I could go and where I couldn't go. So he takes me aside before we go up there and he says, just do what I tell you. Never mind anything else. Right away, he starts schmoozing with the other attorney. He says, that's a beautiful car you got over there. And he said, is that it on the street? And the guy turned around and he tells me, go shoot the basement. And he says, is that a Jaguar? Oh, that's gorgeous. Where'd you get it painted? Right, so it's
Beautiful
motivation.
bird out there.
Beautiful bird out there, right? But you can use that thing in an underhanded way, like he was doing, right? Or you can use it in a much more authentic way. And even, it doesn't matter if she knows that when you say there's a bird, oh, it's Jay's dumb way of saying sorry, she could accept it or not.
Yeah.
Does she want to continue fighting?
Or if it doesn't work, you can go on and try something else. I mean,
Right.
you have to have more than one tool in your toolkit.
Right, right.
What about the tool, to go back to my pre-break point about religion, what about the tool of religion? It lives in a lot of us, not all of us. I think probably less so now, and in this generation, in this time in the world, than it used to. But for other people, more.
In different ways.
In different ways, I mean, there are some people in the developing world, family is not only, something you don't break, you don't tamper with, you don't challenge authority with, you accept it completely.
Right.
And all the rules and all the religions,
right.
and it is, deeply in you, and in your
Right.
whole life, you can't really get away from that,
Right.
or unlikely that you will. Now, suppose I'm having this argument, I say, Steve, we ought to go to church together, Why don't you join my church, or didn't I see you in church last week? And weren't you a nice person there in church? I mean, sort of find the common denominator. There are a lot of people in the business community that make business deals in church, in religion.
Yeah.
And I think it's not like the beautiful bird out there, but maybe it is in the toolkit somehow to find that commonality and to diffuse the argument and the hostility by referring to religion. How does that work? Is that meaningful, or is that skin deep only?
Well, if it works, it works. Are you being honest? I think that if somebody says to you, come to my church, and you do it, but you feel like a hypocrite, then it probably, A, is not going to work, and B, you're not going to feel good about yourself, and you're probably going to resent him. And then what if it still doesn't come through? Then you're really going to be angry, right? So I really believe that honesty is the best policy, whether I'm being a therapist or a client, the interviewer or the interviewee. I think that honesty, without honesty, there's no trust. And without trust, there's no intimacy. And in order for you to get what you want, a really good businessman, a great salesman, right? After the deal is over, the guy's going to want to do business with you again, right?
Right,
Are
that's
you
what you
just in
want.
it for the moment, or are you in it for the bigger game?
Well, and if he does, assuming you succeed in that, then he becomes, may I use this term, part of your family. You
Right.
know his movie. There's a trust thing there. You can deal with him again.
Yeah.
Yours.
Yeah.
And you can go down and feel good about that, about your life, the way you've integrated things, that you have relationships that work not only in the house, but outside.
Well, look, the way that I'm here today, okay, we met each other at a sort of very serious, almost sacred event, right? We had never met before. The mutual friend introduces the two of us. We sit down and we make a connection on where we grew up, right? We have a commonality, which makes us feel a little bit at ease. And then you hand me something that I gave up on getting. You know, for 10, 15, 20 years of my life, I wanted my own TV show. And you tell me this is what I do, and you want your own show? And I was like, you could have knocked me over with a feather.
It was
Really?
a wonderful moment. I remember it very well.
It was a wonderful moment. And I think, you know, we were both, I hope, just being ourselves. You know, I certainly didn't go over there to
No.
build business or
the
connection.
nature of the nature of
The nature of the
event.
event,
was,
I went there because I cared about those people
yeah,
deeply. And I
did
think
too.
you do too.
Yes, that was a good common denominator right there.
Yeah.
If you're there, you can't be all bad. Yeah.
Somehow I think that's what they call left-handed comment. No, but we were both there in a very authentic way, not for any other reason than to, you know, just show up, right? They say showing up is 90%, right? And what's my point?
Your point is that we can create families beyond the family. We can create a life full of families, a community of families.
Right. Like,
And that is sort of the ultimate pleasure, an ultimate success, isn't it?
to make connections.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know these two people, or actually I think there's three of them, who are from different regions in the Middle East, you know, and they're all on different sides, but they've been meeting together for over 30 years to talk about the problem. And the way that they talk about the problem is, first they focus on their commonality. You know, we're much more, like you said in the beginning, we're much more the same. We're all mammals. We're much more the same than we are different.
Yeah.
And if you focus on that, maybe you could stop killing each other.
Yeah. So really, I mean, I think we can use psychology, we can use these bag of tricks for various things, and certainly and this is another show, in the way of dealing with authority. And
Right.
authority, like the car sellers or the political people or the religious zealots, you know, and self-proclaimed religious leaders
Right.
Deal with us. I mean, we can deal with that using the same bag of tricks to understand. And it's an understated skill to be good in psychology, to understand the family. May I say, the family of humankind is beyond just marriage. It's a marriage of being on the planet together. We're in a kind of marriage that way.
Wow.
That's what I think.
Yeah. And there's no divorce. Yeah.
Okay, that's Steve Katz joining me for a conversation we meant to have a long time ago. Thank you so much. Steve Katz, the psychotherapist, here on Shrink Wrap, how human dynamics outside the family. That's what we're talking. All right,
Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Hi, everybody. I'm IC Davidson. Thanks for watching Think Tech Hawaii. One of the things that we try to do here is promote civic engagement. How do we do that? We put on shows weekdays from 12 to 5 p.m. We let people in our world on Facebook and all the social media. Today, I'd like to talk to you about another way that you can engage us here at Think Tech Hawaii and help us promote civic engagement here in Hawaii. What you do is you get on Twitter, you follow us at ThinkTechHI, and during the day, between weekdays between 12 and 5 p.m., you can interact with each of our live shows. What does that mean? You can send us questions, comments, thoughts, experiences, anything. All you have to do is mention us on Twitter. We'll see it here in the studio, and our hosts and guests will address them accordingly. This is a big thing for us. We want to hear from you. The conversation doesn't start here when our show ends. It ends when everybody gets their say. Join us weekdays, 12 to 5 p.m. on thinktechhawaii.com. Join in the conversations live with Twitter, at ThinkTechHI. Thank you for watching. We appreciate your support. See you soon.